If your strategy is the same as it was before, you're just slapping headsets on people, beating them with sticks, live delivery or a pre-recorded message, it's time for fresh tactics.
Folks, we're hanging with co-founders of Sense Development, Clayton Geiser and Jim Cripps. You guys had changed the game for me and my businesses as well as everybody else that I've introduced you to. I feel like you guys are going to change the industry a little bit.
You and I started having conversations, and it was just an opportunity to say, let's quit beating around the bush and let's just start helping people with the number one problem that we're seeing, and that is data, strategy, and actually having enough volume of data to be able to help.
I think one of the big things that separates us is our ability to find millions and millions and millions of records so that salespeople can be productive and keep going and keep building. The world's changing. It's changing very, very fast. And the more information you have, the better you can be with the customer and for yourself. So I laid it out with Jim. Here's what we got to do if we're going to be in this business. If this is going to be a part of Sense Development, then we need to do these things and we need to be different. At the end of the day, everybody has about the same information, and this is true. You know, we get it right from the source. So a lot of our competitors, they aren't even marketing this data to people for another couple of months because they don't have it yet.
You need to have a conversation with these two guys. You need to reach out, just because I promise you, it'll be worth your time.
We're here to help people optimize their marketing dollars and at the same time better serve the people that need to be served by their product or service.
Blessings, folks. Welcome back to another episode of the Hitstreak. I'm your man, Nick Hyder. And folks, I'm extremely excited for this episode today. I got an extra special treat for you, a double dose of awesome hanging out with me in the studio today. I'm going to get right into it. These two dudes right here have changed my ability to scale all of my businesses and everybody else's business that I've introduced them to. Without getting too far ahead of myself, folks, check it out. These are the co-founders of Sense Development. One of the guys you know extremely well because he's been on the Hitstreak 1 billion times. His name is Jim Cripps. Jim, how we doing? Thanks for being here today, baby.
Man, it's great to be here. If I'm here much more, I think I might as well just start getting mail, and just change the address. I love it.
Maybe just add you to the graphic, make it a co-host. You know what I'm saying?
All right. I see where this is going.
And I've known you for a long time, and then you were kind enough to introduce me to, I call him the mad scientist because he just blows my mind every single day. He gets his hands dirty in all the places nobody wants to get dirty, but he looks beautiful doing it. It's unbelievable. Your co-founder in Sense Development, Clayton Geiser. Clayton, thanks for being here, man.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here. Thanks for dragging me across all these states just to come see you, man.
Well, yeah. So you did you get it? You got in yesterday, right?
I did. Yep.
Where, and tell the folks where you came from.
Normal, Illinois.
Normal, Illinois.
Yep.
That's
the name of the town.
Cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know. So where is Normal, Illinois?
It's about halfway between Chicago and St. Louis in Illinois. Illinois State University is there.
Okay.
It's right next to Bloomington, Illinois, home of State Farm Insurance. Beautiful.
Yeah, dude. A lot of the big insurance companies are in Texas, Illinois, all that kind of stuff. That's cool, man. That's cool. Well, I mentioned that you guys had changed the game for me and my businesses, as well as everybody else that I've introduced you to, in the form of data. And so I really want to take some time to make sure that people know what we're talking about here and what makes you guys brilliant in what it is that you do, right? So years ago, data surpassed oil as the most valuable commodity on earth, right? So, and Clayton, like myself, you've been in the business of data mining, data. I don't create data, but I was in the business of buying data and marketing to data in the insurance space and doing it at scale is all I know how to say, right? So give me a little bit of a backstory about how you became the mad scientist that you are today.
Well, without getting too wordy, I started my career with a company called Direct Connections International, which is it was a marketing firm, advertising agency. And to be honest with you, I walked in there to go to the bathroom one day in 1999, ended up meeting the owner. He had a Frisbee in his hand. We played Frisbee for a while, and he's like, "Hey, man, you want a job?" I was like, "Yeah, it'd be awesome. I need a job." I was just back to town. I had been in the Marine Corps and that kind of stuff. And, I was 22 at the time. And then fast forward to when I'm 26 and I was the CEO of that company. It wasn't huge. It's a 70-person company, but We had a call center, and a B2B call center that made phone calls. So we bought a lot of data for them to call in the form of a list, and ended up, just kind of working with data that way. One of the projects that we had, though, was maintaining a large media database, so all the journalists and, TV show hosts and all that stuff. And back then they would publish a book that would list out all these people, what type of press releases they received and all that stuff. And that was, kind of a huge undertaking because there's so many.
Right.
And we had to learn pretty quick how to manage that data, how to identify any problems there was with it, and just to make sure that it was on point. And, before us, they kind of changed vendors like us every year. And then I think we did that project for 10 or 12 years, until they stopped doing it because the world changed. But
right.
Yeah, that's kind of how I got into it. And so, I developed some good relationships, and, I hadn't been in that business for quite a while. I'd done some other things, ran a software company here in Nashville, met Jim, and, one day he was saying, hey, this guy is, got this problem with this. And I was like, well, I mean, that's an easy problem to solve. I know where to get the data. I know where it comes from just because I know. And, here we sit now because, we have access to a lot of leads, specific in many different disciplines, but in the insurance industry, health and life insurance, those kinds of things.
Yeah, man. It's, so, Jim, remind everybody a little bit about your background and kind of how it ties into here. Because again, you're known for so many things. World record holder. Literally, I watched you bowl a strike backwards once again online the other night. It's all he throws is strikes backwards. It's cool, man.
Amazing.
And I think that's why I'm drawn to him, because I'm a little dyslexic, right? So I learned backwards.
Right.
But tell a little bit backstory, Jim.
Yeah. So kind of like Clayton, I got into management just by kind of going up the food chain, right? You get good at one thing, you get opportunities. And then along the way, ended up growing a pretty good sized company here in Nashville, growing it from 6 million to a little over 100 million.
That's a good size.
It was good size.
Yeah.
And was Nashville's fastest growing company 2 years in a row. And, that company sold in 2020 and really didn't know what I was going to do next. Just knew I wanted to help people, wanted to continue to help other people do things. And if you've gone from single digits to triple digits and millions, that's where a lot of coaches haven't been. You have different coaches for different things, much like in baseball, you're going to have a hitting coach and you're going to have, other coaches with different disciplines. And so that gives me a little bit of a unique skill set. And the more and more I started having conversations, everybody was having data problems.
Yeah.
And, Clayton has these relationships that he's fostered for, 25 years plus. And we started having those conversations. You and I started having conversations, and it was just an opportunity to say, let's quit beating around the bush and let's just start helping people with the number one problem that we're seeing. And that is data, strategy, and actually having enough volume of data to be able to help.
I love it. And because, there's a lot of words that refer to the same thing. Some people call them leads. Some people call them records. Some people call it data. At the end of the day, though, Clayton, all of these electronic records that make the data that are the leads, it's basically like us in the Matrix, the people in the Matrix. It's like all the things except for our physical body. It's all the things that make us who we are: first, last name, email address, phone number, home address, whatever we've volunteered, or information we've volunteered onto the internet at the end of the day. And somebody's captured it and put it together. Is that a fair assessment?
You nailed it. I mean, people used to say to me, the government's watching us. And I'm like, it's really not the government. It's Procter and Gamble. They know everything about you. And they know how to use that data for their purposes. So, that information's out there, and how it's used by companies in an ethical and methodical way is really what separates, great companies from just good companies or average companies.
That's right.
So, and as automation happens, the need for more and more information, it goes through the roof. I mean, I remember back in the day when, press one campaigns first came out.
Yeah.
For a telemarketer, you may need 1,000 records to do whatever you're doing. But then we found out, well, if you're doing press one campaigns, you need 10,000 records, because we consume more when we're automated. And one of the problems I think that we've identified is people just can't get enough. You know what I mean? It's not, I need 20 people to call. You're automating so many things that now you need 50,000 people to work all the time so that you're non-invasive, you're following the right processes, you're not killing the data, you're not killing the leads, you're not doing those things. And I think one of the big things that separates us is our ability to find millions and millions and millions of records so that salespeople can be productive and keep going and keep building. You see, the sales volumes going up and down as they're responding to their pipeline and those kinds of things. And all this automation really has changed that. So your sales will even out in a good way and continue to climb. But at the end of the day, you need to make sure that you've got enough to keep feeding the system.
It's kind of like if you compared it to social media, it's called social media. You got to be, the more social you are with it, the better, right? So the more conversations you're having, the more engagement that you have. Right. And all social media is it's data compiled into a profile, right? It's at the end of the day, like there's no real people there. It's a picture of your profile and a whole bunch of electronic information.
Right.
So there's really not a big difference at the end of the day, is there, or is there? Because again, people will surf. You can scroll social media, but I don't think many people are sitting there scrolling their database for fun.
Maybe they should be.
Yes, I agree.
Maybe they should be. I think you nailed it. The world's changing. It's changing very, very fast. And the more information you have, the better you can be with the customer and for yourself. Because at the end of the day, it all matters, how you're serving the customer, how you engage with them, how you meet them initially. And if you're doing the right things, good things are going to happen.
So we've mentioned, that like a good data marketing strategy is extremely powerful, and it is extremely powerful. So the folks that are out there, like, are they talking about when I get those calls that I didn't ask for, and the person on the line, it took them 5 seconds to respond when I said hello, and they may or may not have spoke my language. They mispronounced my name. Jim, that would be a great example of misusing a poor marketing strategy for their data, right?
Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, that's a representation of you, if that's how you're using it. And there's plenty of people who use it that way, but that's not ideally how you're going to use it. If you think about it, marketing for years and years and years, and a lot of marketing firms, I'm going to upset them with this one, is they don't want to talk about an ROI. They want to talk just in generalities of, did you hit your goals? When they sit down and we're talking about an ad campaign or, radio or print or, all those types of things. If you have the data, you can connect your customers back to how they got to you. And then, let's just say because in my former life, I was spending about $5,000 to $10,000 a week on Facebook marketing. And to some people, it would blow their mind. How would you justify spending $300,000 to $500,000 a year on Facebook? But we used it like a cash machine because we had the data to say this customer came from this ad. So you could go back and you could go, okay, for every time I spent that $5,000 or I spent that $7,000, it resulted in this many sales. So it's kind of like I spent that $7,000 one time and I got it back to spend the next week, and I got it back to spend the next week along with some profit. So you need data in order to be able to make those types of decisions.
Yeah.
It also allows you, if you're regularly doing that, and everybody understands that is a requirement for this process. So if I'm doing that, then I'm going to be able to make market decisions faster than my competitors, which is going to put me out front.
You guys are like the first people I've ever met in this space that like are interesting in, a lot of times the data companies are selling to the sales force. They're solving a problem for the sales force, but they're creating massive problems for the people on the other end of the phone.
Yeah.
And you guys care about both sides. And that's the thing is like, it's not about, it's great you have a big list and access to a ton of data, but like you guys are in the business of conversions.
Absolutely. Well, and that's why I love working with Jim is not, everybody that says they're in this business, they sell a commodity, right? So it's all the same stuff, but people are going to use this in different ways. And Jim's great at bringing in, hey, this is what this company does. Okay. This is what their unique fingerprint is. This is how they're going to use it. So how can we match them up with the right information and fit in instead of making them change what they do? Now, there's some clients that need to change what they do just because it's not effective. But for the most part, we deal with successful businesses. Success leaves clues, right? And, so we don't want to disrupt their operations. We want to make sure that we're the vendor that picks up the phone. We understand what their business does. We're capable of abstract thought, and we're able to get them what they need.
So listen, because these are very ethical gentlemen here, he's not going to tell you what the competition's doing wrong. He's going to tell you what they're doing right. And that lets you know what everybody else is pretty much doing wrong, right? So, because it is. The guy that first introduced me to, hey, man, we can buy data and you can, have people to call. You can have people that said they needed this. You can call them and try to solve their problem. It was he used to say that the lead business was like the Wild Wild West. There was no regulations. It was pretty much just like, and even then, it was like, hey man, when you get this phone number, you call it 3 times in a row. Like you blow that phone up until you're told no. And then, and a lot of people aren't comfortable doing that. And that turns into another problem, which is a whole bunch of abandoned data and stuff, which is like the most common thing that I see all the time, which we'll get into. But like, Clayton, you're very passionate about this stuff.
Love it.
Like, and again, I don't know who else I'd want in my corner if they're not passionate about what they do, which it's rare to be passionate about something like this. But that just means that, to me, it means you're a really smart guy because you know that this is the foundation of all business development and revenue, right? So what's the biggest thing that you want to do, Clayton? This is a little bit of a loaded question. So what's the biggest thing that you're wanting to accomplish here? Because you could have done it the way everybody else does it. You could have even done it with them, and you would have lost sleep. But outside of that, you would have spent way less time doing what you're doing to do the same thing. What is your actual goal with doing with Jim? And how, I feel like you guys are going to change the industry a little bit.
Well, let's hope. When Jim came to me and said, hey, we're seeing everybody needs leads, everyone needs data, whatever you want to call it. I'm like, well, we can solve that problem, but if we're going to do it, let's do it right. Okay, because. I dealt with, I own 2 high-end call centers that, their whole business was based on quality, right? That's what we did. It was quality leads, quality appointments, that kind of stuff. So I laid it out with Jim. Here's what we got to do if we're going to be in this business. If this is going to be a part of sense development, then we need to do these things and we need to be different. At the end of the day, everybody has about the same information, we like to say, and this is true, we get it right from the source. So a lot of our competitors, they aren't even marketing this data to people for another couple of months because they don't have it yet. Right.
That's huge.
Well, and that gives us a little bit of time to be able to do the right things and come up with unique solutions. We had somebody call us the other day and, they thought they wanted leads and they do, but really, they may need a meta audience. We could put that together for them. Or, we learned that the biggest insurer in Illinois decided to stop operations. So there's 250,000 people that don't have insurance now. So I can pull together lists of group insurance in that area if you want to hit them today. And I can have that to you in the evening. These are businesses, that buy group insurance. They're in Central Illinois, so they definitely have XYZ company. Yeah. Right. And they are not going to have insurance on January 1st.
Yeah. You guys are, I feel like you guys are more of a data source. Not only are you a source, but like, I feel like you guys, when I'm working with you guys, I feel like I'm starting to, if I didn't have a target, I'm really starting to set one.
Well, and that's a big piece of it because, a couple calls we've been on, we ask what their avatar is. Who are you trying to market to? What does your best customer look like? And they'll give some generalities. They'll give a range like 45 to 75, and in this part of the country, and that's kind of it. And we want to know more specifically, like dive further into that, because we can always zoom back out some, but I can't zoom in if you haven't really been specific about that, who that is. Mm-hmm. And our very first client for data, I remember the morning of, everything goes out, the call center starts getting calls, and you were part of that conversation because there was a little bit of a, hey, what's going on here? Mm-hmm. And just out of, the way we've been conditioned for 45 plus years, when somebody says something like that, you assume something's wrong. Mm-hmm. So we jump on a call, and it's the call center going, what did you change? Because everybody that has called today has been qualified, and that doesn't happen.
That's right.
So the thing that I think we look at is, how can we deliver a data experience that is better? None of them are going to be perfect.
Sure.
Because somebody could absolutely be in the market for what you're selling, but they had something happen this morning that derailed their train of thought. Mm-hmm. They took their car in to drop it off at a body shop.
Yep.
And it derailed what they thought their day was going to look like. And so today they're not a buyer, but really they are. Mm-hmm. So data is never going to be perfect, but how can we best align the person that needs the data in volume? I want to be very specific. We're not a little boutique where you buy 10 leads, that kind of thing. We do real volume, but very targeted.
Mm-hmm. I want to thank all of our loyal fans that spread across all 50 states and 14 different countries. It's absolutely amazing. Folks, help us keep spreading the word, right? Share your favorite episodes with friends, and make sure that you are liking and subscribing to the Hitstreak on all digital platforms. Thanks again, and we look forward to more. Clayton, let's talk about volume and why volume is important, especially, especially for the maybe not the size of the business you are today, but the size of the business you're growing to, right? So talk to me a little about when he says volume, what numbers are we kind of talking here?
Well, you mean as far as leads are concerned?
Yeah.
On our league programs, if you're talking health insurance or health and life insurance, we're going to generate 2 million a month. 2 million leads. And a lot of these are age leads or fall on the floor leads. But, to Jim's point, they'll come to us and they'll say, I need some leads, 40 to 70 years old or whatever. And then once we talk to them, we figure out they need dog owners that live on the left side of the street and listen to Pavarotti. Yep. Well, we can do that, because we have enough information to be able to pull it together and not resell it a million times.
That's what I'm talking about.
This data has been sold back and forth. These aren't going to be the only people that followed up with them, but they're going to be we only sell them once.
So let's make sure everybody understands, because what you just said is extremely important, right? So Nick Hyder could go and fill out a form and immediately go and fill out, 3 URLs later, 3 web pages later, fill out another form.
Yeah.
Right. And that means that so I became 2 leads at that point in time. Would that be fair to say? I want to make sure people, I want to go straight kindergarten level here.
Yeah.
Because this is one of the most people are just absolutely misinformed when it comes to this stuff, or they're not informed at all. Right. So I'm in my mind, sorry, Pop, I'm thinking about old 75-year-old Mickey Hyder here, and how he's done great in the world of baseball with lists, right? And before, when he was in the music business, he had a Rolodex that sat on his desk. That was his master list. That was you know what I'm saying? So Clayton, I want to talk a little bit about when you say, somebody became a lead.
Right.
And, so how could Nick Hyder be sold multiple times today?
Well, okay. So here's kind of the life cycle, right? You go out and you show that you have an intention of interest in something, right? And then that lead is sold either as an exclusive or as a premium fresh lead for high dollar, right? And the amount of people it's sold to, that's what they call legs. All right. So how many legs does this lead have? And they get calls or whatever it is, but they don't end up buying for whatever reason. Those are now kind of what they call age leads or fall on the floor leads. Fall on the floor leads are ones that weren't sold. Okay, for whatever reason. You may have somebody they're marketing in an area and they're buying 100 leads a week or something, and they generate 102.
Okay.
You know what I mean? What happens to those other two? You know what I mean? And that's where the real money is. Then you take that information, those age leads, which for us, age leads aren't what our competitors are. Our competitors' age leads are 86 days old or something like that. We're talking about 0 to 60 days. We still call them age because, that's how we obtain them.
They're not present. If they're 1 day old, you consider it aged.
We consider it aged
because they aged a day.
That's right.
Makes sense.
Well, ethically, we never want to overrepresent. We want to state exactly what it is.
Love it.
Because we're in a world where the definition matters, right?
Right.
I can call something, you can call it something, and we could mean two totally different things.
Yes, that's what we're doing today.
Right. Well, we can take it as far as our customers need to go. I mean, if they're looking for preset appointments, we'll figure that out. We know how to do it. Okay. We know how to generate the campaigns. We know how to walk them through it so they can do it themselves. We can do it for them, whatever it is. But most of our clients are successful because they make those bulk plays.
All right, so I'm going to really give a horrible analogy here. Let's see if it works, though. It might. So, like, what you guys are basically telling me, because again, it's targeting. So, I was having a conversation about literally yesterday, and it was like, man, it's sometimes, our expectations aren't really realistic, right? How many other guys did my wife have to vet out before she found old Nick over here? You know what I'm saying?
That's
like,
right.
and vice versa. So, it took some time of getting to know that person to figure out that's not who I want to be with for the rest of my life, right? That's not
right.
That's not what I'm looking for. So at the end of the day, every other dude that she went on a date with was just a lead, right? They could just be a lead, and guess what? The lead might not have showed up for the date. It could have been a no show, right? And then you could have got there, and the lead's like, I'm not that person at all. You know what I mean? That's not who I'm. At the end of the day, that's kind of what's happening. But what you guys are doing is you're shortening that cycle. I don't have to go on so many dates to find the right girl, because now through a relationship with you guys, the more we get to know each other, more and more what I'm looking for. So now you're putting me more beautiful women that are of my liking. You're giving me more choices of those versus the ones I'm like, wow, she's 3 feet taller than me, and I'm not into that. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's not what I'm looking for today. So how was that analogy? Was that good?
Well, I'm going to add on to your analogy.
I'm
going to add on to his.
Oh, let's go.
So what we do in data is the equivalent of Nick is trying to find Rhiannon in the 1905
the 1900s
era. So you've got to walk or take a horse to go meet a girl, much less to find Rhiannon, right? We are shortening that window to Tinder.
There it is.
So because of the volume of data, think of if you were in 1905, how hard would it be to find 50 available, eligible girls that you would want to vet?
That's right.
Fast forward to now where they're at your fingertips. And that's really what we do, because we bring so much volume to the table that we can make those matches faster.
Oh, that's it. So Clayton, basically, like a long time ago, there wasn't enough choices. Like the choices weren't so accessible at the same time, and now there's so many darn choices that we don't know what to do with it, and we can't even really truly like vet the choices. So now, basically, you guys I can line up 10,000 women in front of me, and I got 30 minutes to pick the right one. Obviously, I'm not going to get to all of them, right? But you could say, talk to these 40.
We can help you get it down. Yeah, before you even start. Now, you've got to have enough information to be able to do that. And, if you get into the mindset of any lead seller, lead dealer, whatever you want to call them, data broker, their goal in life is to sell as many records as possible.
Yep.
Right? So what they're going to do is they're just going to, as broad as you can go, I don't want any detail at all. You know what I mean? Just tell me what you want and I'll give it to you. Okay. And the more you ask and the more you tell them about your business and all those things, is it helping their business? And we've set up our model so that we have skin in the game. We have a stake in the outcome.
Yeah.
We need to get them the right stuff. And we have enough information where it doesn't kill the volume.
Derek Jeter said that trust and loyalty one direction is stupid. It's got to go both ways.
It's got to go both ways.
And that's so like I'm finally like spending this time together is huge, even just for me, because I know like when you know something is extremely unique and special, but like how do you like if you haven't seen it before, it takes a minute to understand what you're looking at and how to describe it, right? So every other person I've ever worked with in this space was extremely transactional. As a matter of fact, the moment that I paid them for the data they gave me, the relationship, the transaction ended, and that was basically it. You guys are about the relationship, not the transaction, which is how I like to operate, right, Jim?
That's right. Well, and I've said this before, sitting in that seat, is my favorite space to be in is where I'm both being selfish and unselfish at the same time with the same answer. And so for us, it is very self-serving that we do take such great care of our clients, because I don't just want their business. I want them to be so fired up that they can't shut up about it, and they send me the referrals.
Bang,
and
bang.
then they look like heroes again because they introduced me, and now I'm helping somebody else because now we're bringing them back to the table and going, okay, who's your ideal client? What does that look like? Be very specific. And everybody has been kind of trained over the last, I don't know, 20 years to expect less and less and less service. And that's not us. By design. Right. We don't want customers that we don't want to run into, on the street.
That's right.
We want to run into them on the street and them go, oh my gosh.
That's right.
You changed my world. That's what we're looking for.
Well, and there's a lot of data brokers, and I'm not talking poorly of them. They're following the same model they were in the 90s. And sometimes you just want to say, when you're talking to a client, but you don't say it, is 2008 called, they want their business model back.
Yeah.
Come on.
So the way the world's working right now is everything's getting cheaper, faster, better, all those things, right? And so when Jim and I were discussing getting into the data business, we wanted to do it right. We wanted to do it better, but we also knew that it was going to change.
Yes.
And we were going to evolve. Okay. We weren't going to change. We were going to evolve.
That's right.
And do the right things and make sure that the model matched where we were on the calendar. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. Folks, we're hanging with co-founders of Sense Development, Clayton Geiser and Jim Cripps. Since the URL is sensecustom.com. And on Instagram, follow Clayton at Clay Guys and Charge Forward Podcast for Mr. Jim over there, right? So, right. And by the way, he's great. Got a great podcast. I've been on it a couple times. Charge Forward Podcast. Go on ahead and click that subscribe button when you get there, right? So, all right. So I feel like we kind of got the hood open on this thing, and I'm ready to do some real work here. So we're a half hour into the sucker already. Can you believe that? That's crazy. Great. Time flies whether you're having a good time or not, right?
That's right.
So, all right. So I'm going to get to my notes here for a second because this is huge. So what would you say to, I guess they're around there. There's businesses. Well, here, let me position it this way. So I was always in the insurance world. I was always known as the good social media marketer. I didn't have a great reputation as being an expert with lead management or lead development, which actually I've learned over the years. It was kind of the same thing. The same campaigns can work for both. Right.
Right.
And, but like it was almost like I was trying to pick the one that I liked the best when I 100% needed to do both. Right. So Clayton, what are the most common, top five ways people use data management, to communicate with their clients or get new clients? The top 5 ways that a business would do that today, regardless of the business, like really like the shell surface level type stuff right here.
Well, so I'm always of the philosophy and that first and foremost, you want to figure out what the size of your world is. All right. Who can possibly buy from you? Now, if you're talking about consumer marketing, that's a lot of people, right?
Yep.
So
you're talking about market share here, right?
Yeah. So you got to figure out what's the size of your world, who's going to buy from you, and then you got to tier it up. You got your nifty 50. These are the 50 people I've just got to do business with no matter what. Then you've got right in your wheelhouse, and then you got prospects, in terms of how you're going to segregate and, how you're going to look at those categories. And then you've got to figure out, how are you going to identify those? And then how are you going to methodically contact them? Okay. And at what level is your staff capable of engaging with them? Okay. Do they need to be a preset appointment because their time's valuable? They know how to close, or are they learning and they need to get some experience? Where are they? You know what I mean? Are they all the above? Because we can come up with solutions based on what your business looks like.
Yeah.
And, most of our customers, they've done very, very well with their processes. Okay. So it's just a matter of feeding the machine, right? And we can figure out how to do that. And we can also figure out how to make sure that they've got a good stream without, being short, buying too much. We can figure out what that fuel mixture is so that they can achieve their goals. Now, we're going to be the guys that want a line of sight into how much money are you going to want to make this year? How many sales is that going to take? How many quotes is that going to take to get that many sales? How many appointments is it going to take to get that many quotes? How many whatever is it going to, all the way back down to talking to Jim and Clayton about age leads.
I love it. It's funny, as I'm sitting here thinking about it, I probably have 6,000 or 7,000, if that I know of, contacts in my phone. And I can remember when I first found value in that, I was like, dude, there's people in here that I ain't talked to in years.
Right.
I need to reach out and see what's up. It's funny because you actually, the people that mean the most to you in life, you reach out to them, you connect with them the most. Right. And so think about that. You have your customer's email address and their phone number and other extremely unique data pertaining to them. And what better way to let them know that you're there and you care than to just drop them a note every once in a while.
That's right.
And you guys are great with that's what really stuck out to me with you guys is not only was, by the way, I'm just going to throw this out there. I know that you guys are going to say look, our data is great, and you guys are going to take the high horse here. It's better. Okay, I'm just going to throw that. I'm going to speak on your behalf. It's 100%, 1,000% better. But you guys care about the relationships that I'm going to form with it. You don't want me abusing it and taking those people's information, and because you guys have taken great personal responsibility for that, and that's what stuck out to me the most, Clayton, when I really got into this with you guys.
Right. Well, Jim doesn't have to do this. You know what I mean? He's been successful. There's a million things that he could do or do nothing. He's at that point in his life where he's a success. And if we're going to do something, once again, we want to do it right. And part of that is feeling good about what happens on the other end. It's not just here's your bullets. I don't care what you do. You know what
exactly
I mean?
Right.
Well, a big piece of it is, what do you consider fun? And for us, fun is helping someone optimize.
Yep.
They're already successful in business. For the most part, our clients are already successful. But how do we help them get to that next level? And a lot of times people don't understand that what has worked before, even though they've heard the cliche, what got you here won't get you there. I get it. But it's a volume standpoint. In a lot of cases, it's okay. You've nailed down who your customer is, but you're only selling in the state of Tennessee. Why? Well, that's what we do. Okay. Do you want to go beyond that? Now, if you're selling something with the state logo on it, okay, well, Tennessee might be the size of your world. But aside from that, well, let's open that up. And you do that with data. You leverage the volume. To give you a volume standpoint, one of the spaces that we operate leads in is in solar. People who have raised their hand and said, I am interested in adding solar to my home. And we were trying to kind of put a price on it and go, okay, well, what is an average solar lead worth these days? And we called a lead supplier. Now, to put this in perspective, this lead supplier said, I've got thousands of leads in the state of Florida. We were like, oh my gosh, how many thousands? And he said, probably 2,900, maybe 3,000.
Oh.
People looking for solar, that's a lot.
That's a lot. Our list that we had in our possession
For that month.
247,000
Come on.
in the state of Florida.
Let's go.
So, we got off the call and really we just had to just jump on Zoom and laugh with each other in that that's what people think is volume these days.
Yeah.
Versus what real volume looks like.
Yeah.
And so it's again, do you want to have a leisurely stroll down a side street, or do you want to hit the racetrack? Because you're going to need race fuel if you're going to be on the racetrack. And data is what fuels your business if you're headed in that kind of direction with that kind of velocity.
Absolutely. What are some of the other industries or verticals? We've mentioned solar. We've mentioned health and life insurance. I know you guys have done some stuff in travel, because I was one of the people that helped make those connections happen. Sure. What are some other industries you guys are working or serving right now, or that you're going to be getting into in 2025?
Oh, I mean, we can generate leads in almost any industry. I mean, have the conversation. If we're not able to help you, then we'll let you know. But I mean, there's some common threads that are pretty popular out there. You know, if we're sticking with the insurance world, you know, a lot of people are looking for people to talk to about Medicare, just because it's such a question. And, you know, they're trying to solve the problem because people are dealing with that right now. Or, you know, there's some final expense stuff that people need. And, you know, almost any industry, we can figure it out. We've got the databases to kind of do anything. So if someone talks to us about their business, who they're targeting, what their processes are, we're comfortable with them, we'll help them come up with a strategy. And not only will we give them exactly what they want, but we'll also come with a couple other ideas as well, because we need them to be successful and we need them to be different.
That's right.
Another one that I know is near and dear to you, as it is to me, and you know, a couple other people that you've introduced me to, is health and wellness, longevity, that type of thing. You know, there's a lot of interest there. There's a lot of leads that, again, you know, some of these companies that are working on kind of getting away from just the standard Western medicine and leading more into, you know, natural ways of healing your body and alternative care, whether we're talking about stem cells or whether we're talking about hyperbaric or you know, any of those types of things, even chiropractic care. You know, people that are willing to have those kind of conversations are getting more vocal about that. And you want to lean in on those that are doing a great job and help them grow their business. And the volume's there. But a lot of times they don't know where to look for it.
The Hitstreak is powered by our partners at HitLab Creative Studios. Whether it's launching your brand new podcast, rebranding your current podcast, or taking advantage of any of their other content packages specifically for your social media needs, the HitLab is a one-stop shop for you. Visit hitlabstudio.com for more. The other thing that stuck out to me with you guys was how, you know, you understood the value of social media, being able to create communities and groups and so on and so forth. And like, you guys were the first, let's just say, for lack of better terms, lead vendor that ever was like, hey, let me show you how you can convert these over to Facebook or Instagram. Yeah. And I'm like, wait a minute. Like literally the one negative about old Nick that people would say is he master over here and not so great over there, is now they can show me how to tie it all together. And that way it's not like, you know, you got to pick left field or right field. No, dude, pick success and use both fields when you're doing that, right? So, and Jim, you were the first person that really showed me that. So who is, like, with you guys, Clayton, were you doing this with the Facebook targeting and stuff with groups and all those things, or was that something that when you started working with Jim, you guys put together? Well,
and no, it was totally a sense development play because the world has changed. You know what I mean? And that's an important thing. And also, when we're talking about leads, I mean, salespeople call them, but there's also so many other ways to engage with them. Now, if you call XYZ data broker, they're going to go, here's the leads for you to call. And we want to be like, well, what are you really, what's the marketing mix look like? And how can we take all this information and make sure that it's feeding everything? So we're not just tossing leads over the wall and see what comes back.
Yeah.
You know, how do you make, and really use the word community? Your prospect list, the one that you own, the one that you develop, the 6,000 people in your phone, I mean, that is your community. Yeah. And your network is your net worth, right? So even if these leads are still prospects or suspects, they're still part of your community. They're just in a different part of the life cycle. And there's many different ways to reach out to them, from social media all the way to smoke signals, right? So
Well, and adding those together, I mean, it becomes not just brand awareness, but also brand trust.
Okay.
And so that's one of the reasons that we're very selective as to who we work with. One, it's got to be win-win on both sides. Two, I mean, we've got to feel comfortable with them. You're really giving somebody a secret weapon.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's like you can either use it for good or you could use it for bad. And we want to be associated with people that are using things for good. So as we're leaning into who their ideal client is and that kind of thing, when you add these things together, not only has this person raised their hand and now you're contacting them, but let's just say we are building a meta audience for them. And so those same people are now seeing your Instagram, seeing your stuff on Facebook. So they're getting more exposure to you. So they've raised their hand to say they're interested in something that you've got. Mm-hmm. You're reaching out, and now they're also getting layered in these touch points of them seeing Nick be who Nick is.
Yeah.
And so they get to know you a little bit. So it just adds to that comfort level of doing business with somebody that you know and trust.
And you guys are big too on it was almost like if I could paint a visual here, the guys that I'd worked with, the vendors I'd worked with in the past, I'm in line and I get up the front and I'm like 1,000 leads, please, sir. And they hand them to me. Mm-hmm. And then the next guy that was behind me gets in line. He says 1,000 leads. They hand him the same 1,000 leads.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can't do that.
Right. They had the same 1,000 leads. So it's almost like, so now that 1,000 leads, once that's been done 10 times, they're worth 10% of what they were originally worth in the beginning because, maybe that guy's going to call them before I do and get the deal, or maybe he's going to turn them totally off to answering their phone. And now I can never make contact.
Well, when we first started having this conversation, I didn't understand because I was not neck deep in that the data that I had been using years ago was really built over the course of about 15 years. So it was our database. Mm. So I wasn't buying data in that space. And so when we started having these conversations, I didn't understand that somebody would do that they would maybe even in the same office, they would sell Nick and Jensen the same list. Mm. And it really degrades the brand because then you look foolish because I got a call from Nick today and I got a call from Jensen from the same office about the same thing. So it makes people look incompetent. And that's a regular practice out there. Mm-hmm. And so we have that conversation up front these days is just cut to the chase. We don't resell the lead. And then at the same time, we really don't do this terrible practice that some people do. We don't sell the same lead to you in the same office, and we encourage you not to share the list and break the list apart in your group and don't muddy the water that way.
That's right.
Or we'll break it out for you. I mean, there's a price for that. But that's Jim, we have a responsibility to our customer to make sure they aren't losing their salespeople because that isn't look horrible for us. I mean, it does look bad for us, but it looks really bad for our customer. Would you want to work with somebody that was passing leads around to the same people? No, you're going to go and keep looking. And, I think we take that pretty serious, that not only are we supposed to help our customers grow, but we're supposed to make sure that we're putting them in a position where, they're successful.
Well, again, the whole point is selfishly and unselfishly at the same time. I want you to just not be able to shut up about how great we are.
That's right.
And if I'm doing bad things, that's not going to happen. Mm. So we have to be different in order to, do what we're here to do.
Yeah. And the hardest part for you guys is probably getting the client that you like. So once you get them, you want to keep them for a long time. Like you got the relationship business, right? So keep having all that turnover all the time. And what I'm hearing too is like, so, when I go to that guy, that vendor, 1,000 leads, so he's basically just giving me a list. I mean, at the day, he just said, all right, I'm going to rip out page 100 to 120 of the phone book. Here you go. Yeah. Right. And that's basically what they were doing. And you guys are taking a list and turning it into a lead, right? So if I'm a detective, all right, and I've got to solve a case. There's a body on the ground. I got to figure out what's going on. I'm going to do all this research to figure out. But the first thing I'm going to do is just who saw anything? Mm-hmm. Blind questions, right? Who saw anything? And from that, I'm going to start to form my own leads.
That's right.
Right. And then I don't know if that lead is going to solve the case or not until I've investigated it all the way till the end.
Right.
right? Clayton, in my experience, that was the biggest mistake people made with their data is they never established two-way communication and then decided, are you a customer or not?
Mm-hmm. That's right. And then if you're interested in their business, truly interested, what are you going to do to earn it? You know what I mean? And you may not be interested in their business if you have bad leads.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Because they're not the right customer. And we'll figure that out. You know, I think when I first started working with Jim, we both ran sister companies, but when we started working together, our one of our very first clients was kind of a turnaround, right? So it was a larger company, and they were kind of following some older processes, but it was a great company. All the intentions were in the right. They did great work, all those things. But when we came in, like, who are your customers? Who are your prospects? Who have you talked to? I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and they were just kind of surviving on just a few long-term customers, which isn't sustainable.
Right.
Well, I mean, they had done it for a very long time, and we were shocked.
It's a lot of risk there.
Right. And there was a reason why we were there. They knew they needed that, and they needed that fresh perspective. Well, and I think that they were in a very solid situation, and not only did they have a strategy, it was a data-driven strategy.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, I really do think that customer is kind of how we got here today. Everything happens for a reason. But I remember very specifically, we were consultants for that company, and we're in a meeting probably 3 or 4 months in, and we're having a conversation with someone very high level in the company. And it was basically a meeting where they were saying, we're just ecstatic. We're great. Everything's going great. And at the end, I said, you shouldn't be happy. I said, here's the thing. If I was Joe employee and I was trying to just skate by, then I would be ecstatic about the conversation we just had. But as a consultant, I have to tell you, you shouldn't be happy because we haven't moved the needle enough yet. We've got to break some of these practices and put in new practices because what was working 10 years ago is not working today. And it was enough of a ruffle that there were a couple of meetings missed. And then after a couple of weeks, we come back and he said, you know what? I needed to hear that.
Well, I think the words, you're satisfactorily underperforming.
Yep.
That's what I told him.
Yeah.
He was satisfied with underperformance.
Yeah.
But I mean, you don't need to spend money on us because Jim's not cheap. I mean, he's kind of cheap. You just got to, take him to the right place.
You got to get that
Get
level.
the light right.
Right. Well, at the end of the day, it's got to be win-win. Yeah. And in that scenario, it wasn't win-win because they weren't asking the right questions because they'd never had a relationship like ours. And ours was very much we wanted to be able to hang our hat on. We helped you improve. And we did. We got them back into the black. That we did exactly what we were supposed to do. They renewed their contract 2 or 3 different times. And
I mean, it was supposed to be, a quick.
It was supposed to be 6 months.
Yeah.
And I think we went 16 months.
Wow.
18. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we did the right thing because they outgrew us.
Sure. That's a great thing.
And we told them we're not going to be here forever. So you need to make hay while the sun's shining because this is your time. We're going to look at things. We're going to sweat blood for you. And this is your only chance.
Yeah. And I never forget, I had my 4th grade teacher was absolutely amazing, but I had to go to 5th grade at some point in time, right? I couldn't just stay there forever. Right.
That's right.
So and again, but that teacher still made a huge impact on me, and I'm talking about her today.
Yeah. Right.
And that's how important she was.
Well, and that was another reason why we got into data is because, we, at our core, we're management consultants to help people optimize and improve. And what we kept running into was either bad data, lack of data, or they just didn't know that there was another way. And so, just to kind of go back to the travel industry, one of the first things that we did is dive into the data that they were using. And what was it, 1,200 duplicates?
Yeah.
Where now the customer has paid to market to 1,200, and I think it was 30,000 units, but 1,200 of them were duplicates. Well, that's real money.
Yeah. It adds up in a hurry.
And
That's a week.
Well, and their vendor wasn't misbehaving. That's the way the industry is.
Sure.
You asked for this, I gave it to you. You know, this is what you had. Now, going back to that client, because this is going to be kind of interesting with, you know, how you look at a data-driven strategy. How are you going to look at what they do? We actually figured out, and it was kind of a weird industry, but we figured out that there would be a certain word in the company name that made the list good. So they're like, we really work with these customers. They're this type of company, but within that, and all the companies that were actually prospects for them had a certain word in their name. You know, I don't want to give away too much about who it was. And so we pulled that list and we told the client, and they're like, that's genius. You know what I mean? You came up with the list of our prospects, and we've been calling, you know, let's just say there's probably about 7,000. And we came up with the 800 that were, right. and we could get more because we could figure out what other things they did, you know, and come up with solutions. So
that's awesome. So I wanted to ask you guys, so, you know, all of you have a very extensive background in here. So just, if they ain't bought in yet about credibility, talk to me a little bit about, like, again, you guys are not just, this isn't opinion. This is fact based on the fact that you guys have worked with some of the biggest brands on earth.
Yeah.
All right. That's very important, guys. So, like, you know, I want to grow my business bigger. Well, that means the people that are helping me do that have to have experience in a bigger space. Right. So I can't hire a hitting instructor for baseball that hasn't played at least a high level as I did. You know what I mean? I can't have outplayed that person. So you guys have already worked with companies that are as big as I want mine to be. Right. So talk to me. Can you say or even describe any of the brands that you guys have worked with that maybe there's some household names in there? I'm fortunate enough to know them.
Well, we do have NDAs with most of them because we go neck deep into their business. But, you know, to give an example, the one we were talking about just a moment ago, you know, they're number 2 in their space in the United States. Period.
Wow. So like, can you like just mention, like, let's say revenue. People associate size of a business to revenue, right? So are we talking billions?
Yes.
Well,
there you go.
Well, the company is billions. That particular company is the smallest, and it was about 20 million a year.
Got it. But you guys have worked with some major brands that are doing billions of dollars worth of revenue.
I mean, I've sold leads to Microsoft, to Avaya.
There you go.
You know, came up with lead nurturing strategies for all of them, train their salespeople. We've done all those things in our career.
Told you.
I mean, what Jim did for, you know, the company he ran for 12 years.
4,321 days.
Man, I mean, he nailed it. He nailed it. So all of this comes down to something my dad told me one time. And he said, Clayton, and he didn't come up with this, I'm sure. He said, no one ever went out for a stroll and ended up on the top of Mount Everest.
That's right.
You know, so
that's right.
You know, you got to keep working, and you got to carry that over into all of your engagements with your clients, and they'll follow that pace. You know, they're like, and I don't mean this in a bad way, they're like dogs. You know, they want to be part of the pack. And you got to set that example. We got to lead by example.
That's right.
Well, you know, I'll give you an example that this happened yesterday. So yesterday, you know, Castle's a big basketball player.
Yeah,
he just started with a new team, an AAU team, and it was an hour from our house. So I'm there, and I'm walking up down the hallways. Beautiful new school. Just getting in some steps while they're doing their thing in practice. And this young man that I worked with in like 2010 noticed me from across the gym and came up, and of course we're talking, and he's talking about, you know, how he remembers working with me, and, you know, how that kind of put him on his path to where he's headed and that kind of thing. And that really is at my core, and really ours collectively, is we want to have relationships with people that want to know us 20 years from now.
Right.
And to be able to say that we became better because we knew each other, because we worked together at that time. And so back then, you know, that was with, you know, an individual he was probably 17 or 18 at the time. And now he's got a 16-year-old. And now these days we've grown to a certain point where it's with companies. Like, I want that executive team and everybody that we interact with to be so excited about what we're helping them do that 20 years from now they're still telling the same story. And if I run into them at the old folks' home, they're like, oh, I remember when we started working together.
That's right.
That's the kind of relationships.
That's right.
And to build a business, you don't have to take every deal. Okay.
Right.
So what I learned way too late in my career was there's a difference between hungry and thirsty.
Mm-hmm.
And Jim and I are hungry, but we're not thirsty.
Mm.
We want to do the right thing. We want to be with the right groups.
Yeah.
And we want to be able to walk to schools,
That's
whatever,
right.
and run into people and be cool with it.
So would you say, is there, because we've been talking a lot about the power of data-driven marketing, okay? So first of all, let's define that. What is data-driven marketing to you guys? Go ahead, Clayton.
Well, it's making decisions based on information.
Okay.
Like who you target, why you're targeting them. Those kind of, you don't call a lead because someone gave it to you instead of call it. Why are you calling this one?
Okay.
Because they are this.
You give it a purpose.
And I can help them. And this is what I'm going to have a conversation with them about. And this is how I'm going to help them. And if I can't help them, I'm going to step aside.
Yeah.
And so when we talk to our clients, we say, you need a data-driven strategy. Here are the variables that are going to be important to you. Okay. And that all goes back to where it started. Who is it? It's dog owners that live on the left side of the road and listen to Pavarotti. It's not people that are 40 to 75 years old or whatever you thought back in 1989 what it was, because that's the last words of a business.
That's right.
That's
right. What about you, Jim?
It's the truth. It's the truth or the foundation that you are building on purpose. Go back to, and I think we've talked about this, Jack Daly says that the average Little League team is run better than the average business. And it's because every player on that team knows what their job is.
Oh, wow.
And all too often you have businesses that get to a certain point and they kind of plateau because there's not somebody consciously and on purpose making decisions based in data. It's all just on feel.
Yeah.
And so as we have volumes of data that can be used to help them grow their business, they really do have to drill down and be more intentional about it, because that's what's going to make the data work. Because if you're not clear on who your customer is, well, then that's going to make the data muddy, because I don't really know how to drill down into it. And so we kind of force them to get real about who it is that they do business with and why, who they serve.
Yeah.
And that's why we don't take every client.
Man. So there isn't, and I think this is what most of those other vendors are doing, is they're selling a one size fits all digital marketing strategy. And that's just simply not the case. It's custom.
What does a shirt look like if it's one size fits all?
Not good on me.
Exactly.
I got it on right now.
So
it's James Brown. It's a family show.
Dude, I'm telling you. And I was actually loving that shirt. And I loved Clayton already. And then I saw that and I was like, me and that guy got this, man. We got this, baby.
The Hitstreak is powered by Team Hyder. Team Hyder has been serving you for 11 years and has racked up over 20 national and local awards for excellence in all areas. When it comes to finding the right health plan, we need to consider your family's needs and your family's budget. That's what we do to serve you. To look further and to book an appointment, visit teamhyder.com.
Understanding how to use the data. So I've learned more from you guys and just learning by you guys asking questions about my business, and then literally just the questions you asked me made me answer so many questions that I should have answered a long time ago. All right. So what am I talking about? Well, so I was kind of talking about this yesterday. I'm going to tell you all a little secret. I don't, as I get older, I eat really clean. I'm very, very conscious about I want to feel good. I want to feel good. I want to feel good in my own clothes. Right. So, but one of my favorite things in the entire world, Pizza Hut makes a stuffed crust pizza.
They do.
All right. Now,
how do those geniuses get the cheese in the crust?
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Now, I haven't had one in 2-3 years. Okay. But I see the commercials. Mm-hmm. And every time I see the commercials, I'm not buying one right now, but I will. Okay. Right. And guess what? I subscribe to their newsletters too, right? And I get the newsletter. I saw the commercial, and then man, I get on my computer next time, and boom, there it is. Oh, there's stuffed crust again. It's reminding me that when I'm ready to order that pizza, that I don't forget and go to the last pizza joint that I drove by, or the one that my son said he wanted to try, or whatever. No, guys. Dad only eats this once a decade. It's Pizza Hut stuffed crust pizza. They didn't pay me for that. They can, but they didn't, right? So that's about you guys asking questions about what I was doing, what my data-driven marketing strategies were. I realized that like all the nicks out there that like I literally haven't chosen what I've eaten in 20 years. My wife does that, right? Mm-hmm. So when she says, "What do you want for dinner?" and I'm like, "Dude, like I don't even know where to start. Like what's around here?" Like that's a loaded question,
right?
But by seeing the commercials, getting the emails, seeing the ad on Facebook, all because I'm talking about it right now. I'm sure when I open my phone, they'll be there, right? That it makes that decision easy when it comes time to make it. So as the consumer, that all those campaigns put together made my decision-making process easy when we have an overwhelming abundance of options, right? So talk to me a little bit about, excuse me, like, when it comes to social media, young people especially, they're like, "Hey, I don't want to bother anybody, so don't post so much." I'm like, "Well, they followed me, and I hope I'm all that they see."
Right. You want me to go grab a dictionary? I'll tell you what a community is.
That's right. That's right. Talk to me about like some campaign strategies for the data that they get. Like, so, Clayton, I'll start with you, and Jim, I'll hear from you as well. Like, so first of all, let's pick a vertical. Let's just do a simulation here. All right. So what do y'all want to simulate today? Insurance, solar, what do we want to do? Well, like I'm very passionate about the insurance space, and I can tell you, don't quote me on this number, but at least 85% of all health insurance policies that are bought, they were a lead. And an agent called them, and that's how it shows. That maybe 100,000 agents called them before they found their one. Right. So let's just talk about insurance. And so let's talk about from start to finish, on average, on what you guys know best practices are. And Clayton, you crush it in this space. You are an expert on this. Talk to me about like, so Nick comes to you. Let's say I'm going to buy, like what's the minimum order to work with Sense Development?
Well, the minimum and the average are different, right?
Okay.
The minimum probably be, well, in this day and age, 7,000.
Perfect. All right. So let's say I'm coming to you to buy 7,000 records or 7,000 leads, let's say.
Right. So first and foremost, since you're just a single person, you don't need those all at once. Okay. So we're going to have to figure out how to pace that out for you so that it matches with what you're doing. And then the second thing is that methodically contact, right? So you're going to call them. You're going to try to engage with them on social media. You're going to email, whatever's appropriate without being invasive, right?
Yep.
But everything's based on a series of touches, right?
Okay.
So what people need in order to buy is trust, timing, need, money, right? You're talking about timing with the
trust, timing, need, and money.
That's it.
That's big, dude. And you've never said that to me before, and I'm glad you did.
Well, your whole entire marketing and sales strategy needs to be based on that, in my opinion. Okay, so when you're talking to us, the next time you invite us on the show in a few months or whenever,
we can book it before you leave, baby.
No, it doesn't have to be that. We're going to be able to tell you when you're going to buy that pizza. Okay, because the things that Jim and I are trying to do now could potentially be game-changing like that. So hopefully we can figure out when that intent is really there. Okay. When we know. But if we're getting back to trust, timing, need, and money, we've got to kind of figure out what's the combination. How do we unlock that so that we're, number one, we have enough communication with them, so we're building trust, and we're doing it in the right way without, being invasive, right?
Okay.
Then we're looking at the timing. Okay. So if you've got a no lead left behind approach, which is huge for us, no lead left behind, when you talk to somebody or when you engage with them, they're active, latent, not interested, right? And there's a system for all of those, and they never go away. So you got your trust, you got your timing, need. We know they need it because they have to have it, right? And money. Okay. When's it going to be right? So if you keep those four things in mind, we can back through and we can come up with what the right strategy is. But it's not just the right strategy for in general when you're talking to health insurance people. We also have to bring Nick into it. And what do you do now?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And what's successful and what isn't? And does that play well with your strategy? Because, I said earlier, success leaves clues. So if you find someone successful, you do want to mimic what they're doing to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But you also need to make it your own.
Jim Warren Buffett said that the purpose of a business is to create a customer that brings in a new customer.
That's right. You got to have children.
And that's kind of like where I see you get this data, and it's like you want to make sure that they're that person is in a community that you are a part of, that you can communicate with them in a family environment, let's just say, right?
Yeah. One of the things that I think gets lost on people is, especially you get successful and you kind of hit a plateau, you get comfortable, and you quit doing some of the things that your competitors are doing. It's almost like you don't want to rock the boat. You don't want to be in front of them all the time. Or I know how this goes. Some people are like, well, I'm not on that platform. Well, why are you not on that platform? Your competitors are. If you offer a great service, the people that offer a worse service are on those platforms and they are being loud. It is almost your responsibility to reach out to those people, to be there as an alternative to the ones that are not doing it ethically. Good has to stand up.
Absolutely.
And sometimes good plays it safe. And that's not a winning strategy. It's no different than in my 300 game. If I had not got up on that last ball and threw that ball to win, to shoot 300 versus playing it safe, I want to have a good score.
You accidentally bowled 300.
Yeah, you don't accidentally hit perfect.
Yeah.
And so I would tell people that offer a great service, that take care of the people that they serve, is be more intentional about your contact. Don't be the best kept secret. Like, don't do that.
That's right.
Get out there and serve more people.
Well, and you do that by being professionally persistent.
Yeah,
that's right.
Okay.
That's right.
In consistent, because consistency builds trust, right?
Absolutely.
And that's the number one thing on the list: trust, timing, need, money, right?
Well,
Consistency builds trust.
Think about the terrible foods that are out there. With RFK coming out, and be a part of this. There's some light being shed on some foods that maybe have some paid for branding that misrepresents them as quality or health foods.
I'd eat that pizza more than 3 times a year if it was a little bit better.
That's right.
Ingredient wise.
Right.
Yeah. But, the bad foods are being loud. Why aren't the good ones?
Come on.
So be out there. Make sure that you're not a secret to the people that you can serve.
So like, as we get to the end of this episode, all right, I'm going to ask you guys, first of all, let me ask Jensen off camera over here. All right, so Jensen, when I used to hear conversations like this, I couldn't turn the volume down or turn it off fast enough because it was so over my head that I was just like, I couldn't understand why I needed it, and it was so just out of the norm for me that it was like, it just seemed like a bunch of random words. It was not on my level. So give me a little feedback here, because I'm going to give these guys a final word here in just a moment. Does any of this make sense?
Lie to us.
Yeah, it does.
It does?
I think it does make sense. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm an expert. But,
Right.
But I think, this is digestible for sure.
Perfect. That's the whole thing. And folks, there's no way this is, we're almost an hour 10 in on this thing right here as we get to the end of this thing, and it's like, don't gripe about your phone ringing too much if you don't understand why. Like, so this is information that everybody needs to get, whether you're in business or not, just to understand what's happening. So you didn't get so mad at an honest human being that called you trying to solve a problem that you may or may not have, right? Like I've done a gazillion times. The telemarketers have a horrible reputation for, and you know what? There's a lot of good people that are just trying to make ends meet, man. So I feel for both. I understand for both. But I'm saying all that to say this. If this is over your head a little bit, or you're just like, man, I just don't know, you need to have a conversation with these two guys. You need to reach out, just because I promise you it'll be worth your time. Again, this is the most data surpassed oil years ago, about a decade ago now, as the most valuable commodity on earth, literally worldwide. Like this is what all of the people that control most of the money in the world are chasing, is your information, right? It's that important. So you've got to learn how to use it to be able to play the game. Okay, that's the thing I'm telling you right here. So I'm going to turn it back over to the experts for a minute. Let's bring it home here. All right, final say. It doesn't matter who goes first. I'll let you guys decide. But final say right here. The biggest thing you want the people to know today, because you guys have done a great job of explaining it to me, so that I can help understand it better. And but that's the thing. Excuse me. I want people to understand. They gripe about their phone ringing. Why? Right? How do you stop it? How do you make it where when it rings, it's somebody you want to talk to? Mm-hmm. That's the mission that you guys are on, right? So, final words. Who wants to go first?
Go ahead.
Well, I don't know that I have a lot to say in a final word situation, but if your strategy is the same as it was before, you're just slapping headsets on people, beating them with sticks, live delivery or a pre-recorded message, it's time for fresh tactics. And as you're looking at that, you want to have partners that are going to grow with you. They're going to evolve with you. And I think that's what we've brought to the table. That's what we feel good about, is that we are going to put you in a position where it's relevant to the person that you're reaching out to. And we're going to vet and make sure that it's not a situation where, it's a boiler room. We want you to be intentional. We want you to know what you're doing, and we want you to use this data across all mediums. It's not just phone calls. It's not blowing them up with emails or anything else. It's figuring out what that combination is to non-invasively build trust. And
that's beautiful, dude. That was awesome. That was seriously, that was good. That was really good. I love that.
Well, I'm glad you loved it.
Jim, what say you, baby?
Well, it's hard to top that, because at our core, that's what we're here to do. We're here to help people optimize their marketing dollars, and at the same time, better serve the people that need to be served by their product or service. And it's making those connections. It's allowing them to be in front of those potential customers more regularly, to build that loyalty, build that trust, so that when they do get into a buying decision, there's a clear choice.
Well, here's what I know. There's a statement that the late great Billy Graham said. He said, "I've never met a guy that found Jesus and regretted it." Right?
That's right.
I believe it's impossible to work with y'all and your business shrink. Facts. It's not going to shrink. Nobody's going to work with you guys and regret it. Period. They're going to know more. They're going to have clarity. And no matter what, they're going to have digital assets like that make their company more valuable, that they can lean on in multiple ways, including sell the digital assets with the company, right? At the end of the day.
Right.
So, folks, if you're on the brink of thinking, man, I think I should know more. You should know more. And, again, prove me wrong. Find me one person that can say, yeah, I worked with them and I wish I didn't. You know what I'm saying? Right. It's just not going to happen, because that's the way you guys do it, right? So this was awesome, man. Thank you guys so much for the hang today.
Well, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us in.
Yeah.
It's always a good time, and I'm looking forward to the future, man. I got so many people I want to introduce you guys to. So many people. So I'm so glad I met you guys.
Well, and it again, it's that referral. It's you build trust with one another. Mm-hmm. You do great work together, and then you have access to the network. Boom. You have access to more people that are also doing great work. Mm-hmm. The bad apples don't hang out with the ones that are doing it right. What is it? Turkeys don't hang out with eagles.
That's right. That's right.
Well, and my business partner, before he was my business partner, came to me one day, and I was like, he's like, Clayton, did I just hear you make a sale, like a big sale? And I was like, I made 2. He's like, why? I was like, I always get a referral, man.
That's right, baby. Come on.
Always get a referral.
Come on. I couldn't think of a better way to close the sucker out, man.
The Hitstreak is powered by Rack Financial. When it comes to your credit card merchant processing, Rack Financial is efficient, reliable, and trusted. At the end of the day, when it comes to processing your credit card payments, they make it simple, the way it's supposed to be. Check out Rack Financial.
Folks, once again, the co-founders of Sense Development, Clayton Geiser and Jim Cripps, when it comes to data, maximizing your marketing return on investment, and flat out the power of data-driven marketing in general, these are your experts, right? So give them a shout. And what's right now? So it's what's the best way for them to reach out to you guys right now? They can go to the website. What's the best way for them to reach out to you and contact you today?
Sensecustom.com, traditional spelling of both words.
Yep.
Or sense-leads.com.
So sensecustom.com or sense-leads.com. And they will be in touch. It's that simple, folks. So once again, catch up with them online, sensecustom.com, sense-leads.com, and on Instagram at Clay Guys and at Charge Forward Podcast, right? So, folks, I'm your man, Nick Hyder. Thanks again for tuning in to another episode of The Hitstreak. God bless.